Hi everyone, and welcome back to Vocal Arts. I am your host, Peter Barber, a professional singer and music producer. I recently had the great pleasure of finally chatting with Jonny Stewart of the Wellermen for the first time. We've been in touch via projects, via arranging things. I feel like we're truly friends before the chat, but now we've had a full conversation. Before we get into the conversation, I'd like to show a few of my favorite clips from Jonny's career as a musical performer. Enjoy.
One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
She was Nancy Mulligan and I was William Shearer. She took my name and then we were one, down by the Wexford border. Santiana, now we mourn.
Away, Santiana,
We left him buried off Cape Horn.
along the plains of Mexico.
We must away at break of day to find our long forgotten gold.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Vocal Arts. I am here with Jonny Stewart, and I'm going to pass the baton to Jonny and let him introduce himself and tell you guys who he is and what he's up to.
Firstly, it's an absolute privilege to be hosted on this platform. So many wonderful musicians, both colleagues of mine and people I look up to in the field have been featured. So shout out to Peter for getting me involved. I've just come off a 3-week tour with Sea Shanty collective, the Wellermen, for whom I act as the musical director and primary arranger. One of the group, Bobby Waters, is a colleague of Peter's in the bass gang. So it was quite fun doing a joint number that we do with the bass gang, and then managed to work in a little skit into the show, basically saying that the bass gang were Bobby's side chick and we were his main piece. But we were like happy with the arrangement. Prior to the Wellermen and accidental TikTok sea shanty fame, I'm the music director of a group in London called Novi, and used to be a freelance producer, live sound engineer, and recording engineer with the vocal company, formerly based in Rochester, New York. I lived out there for a couple of months interning with them, and ever since then, there's been a piece of my heart that's always been left in the US. So I feel like I'm constantly straddling both sides of the Atlantic, both with the music I love making and the music I love listening to. And yeah, being on the East Coast for the past few weeks has been an absolute blast.
Fantastic. There's a number of things in there I did not know about you, so we'll have to come back and comb through all that. I would love to talk about tour first with the Wellermen and how that came to be. We can talk a little bit more, I think, about the origins of the group later, but since you just came off tour, and I haven't really gotten the rundown from Bobby or Luke or anybody, I would love to hear just kind of how tour was as an experience, how the venues were, how the crowds were, all of that.
Well, this is our first tour as a group anywhere, let alone the USA. So I wasn't sure what to expect initially. The most humbling thing about the whole experience was honestly meeting people who've been fans in some cases since day one. In some cases, they found us a couple of weeks before the show. I think when you make music, particularly in this like online community that we've built for ourselves, like anyone who does the music collaboration thing on YouTube or TikTok or vice versa, taking it to real people, taking it to real audiences it felt quite strange, because there are real people that are going to pay money they've spent a long time working to earn to come see us. But then speaking to them and finding out that they were feeling the exact same way about it. Like, we're seeing these people who we've only heard online and we've only listened to their stuff, but now we get to meet them and see them. So finding out that it was as cool for them as it was for us was really sick. And yeah, for this first tour, being on the East Coast made a lot of sense because there's so much maritime history, Tea Party, and all that. Kicking off in Boston seemed appropriate.
Yeah,
British are coming.
absolutely.
But yeah, also for me personally, having spent more time in the US than most people this side of the pond, I loved going to see places I'd like only heard about before. So I'd never been to Vermont, never been to Maine. So getting to see that beautiful bit of like wild America was gorgeous, as well as getting to hit like bigger cities like Philadelphia, New York, DC, and then rounding it off with Summerfest in Milwaukee. Like, um, I couldn't believe when that offer came in, man. Like, obviously, like, yeah, playing at a festival, admittedly one of the like sort of lunchtime slots, but still the same festival that groups like Maroon 5, like Scissor, like Tyler Childers was playing the day after. Some guy stopped me in the hotel and asked, "Are you Tyler?" It's like, sure. I'm like a foot taller, but because I'm carrying a guitar and I have a plaid shirt, sure, I'll be Tyler
Yes,
for you.
I'll be your Tyler.
um, but yeah, I have a habit of like tangenting and either covering questions people are about to ask or like covering way too many points. The one thing I just thought of though, with the actual music, the performing aspect of it, it took us a couple of shows to really get going with it and find our feet, because not only were we doing the sort of in-ear monitoring, like live sort of stuff with like backing tracks and instruments for the first time, which I don't think Luke or Bobby had ever done live. I'd not done it live for some time, but also because our tenor Sam Pope has been in a run of a show called The Choir of Man in London. If you're London based at all, then do go see it. It's brilliant. Sam is also good. But we had a Depp with us on tour, Seb Payne, who sings in Novi with me and is a brilliant writer, instrumentalist, singer. So he had to pick up the whole show in basically 2 weeks, and he killed it. I think it just took a little bit of rehearsal time for us to really like get in the pace of this is the show, not just like let's not just we're getting it right, but like this is how we deliver to an audience. The thing we always said to each other before show night was like, these people are gonna maybe see us once in their whole life, so we have to give them like a show to remember. And I think the first Boston show was a bit rocky. The second one was a bit better, and then from like Burlington onwards, playing at Higher Ground, amazing, amazing venue. It really sort of steamrolled from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would think that, I mean, and especially coming from the online platform to traverse the gap between the recording setting and where we all edit our vocals as if they're going on the radio for a lot of songs, and then to go and actually perform live, and you got to figure out tuning in real time, especially like some of the really low bass stuff is not always going to be, maybe as strong in a live
Mm.
performance, which
Well, that was interesting because the engineers that we were working with on tour, some of them were technically brilliant, but they're not used to that much low frequency coming through their system at any one time. And also how to handle the monitoring mixes for us. So I kept on being like, hey, we don't need as much of like the rumble in the headphones because it's taking up all the space, but can we just shove Bobby to one side and Luke the other side so we can hear the clarity? But
yeah.
also out front, don't high pass them very much. Because as you know, as like a producer and mixer yourself, like often vocals get high passed quite aggressively in either live settings or like sort of more bass heavy
Yeah.
sort of performance settings. So their inclination was naturally to high pass Luke and Bobby very, very high. And then we were wondering, okay, this isn't coming out how we want to. It's like, all right, maybe we just slide it down to like the 50 mark, and then boom, there we go. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely a lot of teething troubles in terms of like, how do we translate this thing that we know intimately, like in and of ourselves, into a live show?
Yeah. And also working with the pre-recorded tracks, you've got to stay on a tempo as opposed to being more of an organic, let's find the right tempo in the moment kind of thing, right? Having to strike that
Mm,
balance as well.
yeah, balance is such a key thing that I always strive for in life. Like it feels like we're constantly on a seesaw between a couple of things, and
Hmm.
then eventually we settle out and find that beautiful equilibrium. But in this case, the balance between being prepared and being spontaneous, because the energy in a live show, it's unique to that show, and sometimes you try something a little bit different live that you in that particular room that you haven't ever done, and then it sticks, and then that becomes a part of the life of the song. But when you've got like a click track running so that you don't go out of time with uh I mean, say with Santiana, which was, for those not aware, the joint single that the Wellermen and the Bass Gang put out with Ali the Piper back
Mhm.
in the summer of last year, was it?
Yeah, we
I'm
shot video for it while we were in the Czech Republic, so it must have come out in the fall of last year,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. Yeah, so because we thought, yeah, let's like include the bass boys on that and the pipes and the drums and all the wonderful instruments that Johnny Del Toro mixed, we like had to lock in with that. So it was a question of how much do we need in our ears of all of this stuff, um, in order to like stay in time and in tune, but also not detract from what we're doing live in the room.
Right, right.
So yeah, I think we got a good balance for sure.
I wish you guys had made it to the Southwest. I would have loved to hop on.
Oh, next time. Well, uh, yeah, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say just yet. I think our manager might kill me, but there may or may not be plans afoot to return to the US next year, maybe in a
Amazing.
more westerly, southerly direction.
Amazing.
So
Amazing.
we'll
Well,
see.
no official spoilers, but I will
No,
look forward to it if it happens.
but one of the crazy things about, because you know with Spotify artists you can see where people are streaming your music from as well as what playlists they add it to. I love Melinda's little TikTok series where she sort of
Yes.
goes through all the different like unhinged names of playlists. I think maybe we should do that. That's some crackers. But in the States, some of our biggest streaming centers are really dry, like basically
Interesting.
landlocked places. Like like Phoenix is actually a bit of a hotspot for us. Same with like Houston, Dallas, um, possibly Albuquerque as well.
Yeah.
Like places that I don't know if it's something about longing for the sea and not being able to get to the sea, so you listen to sea shanties. Uh, or maybe you're just single-handedly racking up our numbers, in which case, thank you. But
Yes, I am the 1.2 million monthly listeners all at once.
it's a mad number. It's a mad number.
It's a mad number. Actually, just the first point you kind of made about the live shows is you get to see these real people who are
Mm,
out there watching you. And I find that's we who have online platforms do lose touch with the humanity of these enormous numbers because it's numbers far beyond what humans are kind of meant to interact with, right? We're not,
yeah.
it's not little groups. It's like, what does a million people mean? And something that just framed this for me, I was watching this new Netflix series on world-class sprinting called Sprint, because I've loved track and field since I did it, way back in the day. And they're in these stadiums, and it's like, and 35,000 people are gathered in this stadium here. And you look and you're like, that's 35,000. And it's so many people, and we're dealing with millions.
Mm,
And it just is hard to comprehend. But so then
yeah.
you do a live show for like 50 people, and you're like, this is amazing to have 50 people here. And it's
Y-
the tiniest drop in
Yeah.
the bucket of the whole audience.
No, big time. I was just thinking about that because like uh obviously numbers on streaming are great and all, but numbers don't always translate into real people, like real bums on seats. Like I technically am a monthly listener for so many people, but would I
Mhm,
actually commit to going to their shows? Like maybe not.
mhm.
Probably not in most cases because otherwise I'd be very very poor. So like finding the gap between like this many people listen to the stuff and this many people are actually willing to come out and see it. I think we were just not great for people came from like a sort of desperation point of view, but we had no idea how it was going to be. But in the end, yeah, I think we had six six of the shows were sellouts, which is over half, excluding the festival, because obviously.
It's fantastic.
Um, but yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, definitely acted as a good proof of concept that we do have a good live presence and that uh like yeah, there's like demand for it. So
Yeah.
I guess we better be supplying. What was your event in track and field?
I was anything from 200 to 800 is what I ran in high school. So open 200, open 4x4, 800, and then indoor track, I would also run the 4x200, the 300, and the 500.
Mm.
So like that
I think
kind of sprint to middle distance.
yeah, I think the 400 might be the most difficult event in all of athletics.
It's miserable.
Uh, because yeah, like it's not flat out, but God, it's pretty close, and
Yeah,
you
and
have to sustain that for the entire lap.
that home stretch is so painful every time, every single time. I hated running the open 400. I love the relay. There's something about the relay that would get me so much more excited, and I would always run way faster in the relay setting. Yeah, man,
Mm.
open 400 was like you just knew going into it, this is going to hurt bad.
You didn't hurdle at all, did you?
No, I never hurdled. Never
Because
hurdled.
400 hurdles is one of my favorites while watching. I mean,
Yeah.
I could never do it in a million years, but it's just the skill set to be able to run that long, that fast, and jump at the same
Yeah.
time. It's mad.
Absolutely incredible. There's so many world records being broken right now. Sydney McLaughlin just broke her own 400-meter hurdles record.
Yeah.
Rye Benjamin, fellow USC Trojan, I think he's one of the top two in the world right now. I keep up with it pretty heavily. I
Also,
love
what's
it.
with that like 16-year-old kid?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's
What's
like
his name again?
I'm not sure, but
Franklin?
he's like made the qualifying time, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
He didn't quite make Paris, but I think he came in fifth in the 400 finals
yeah.
of the trials. 16.
He's got time.
He's
Got
got
time.
he's got time, exactly. That's cool. I didn't realize you were also a follower
I'm
of
just a
track and field.
massive I'm just a massive sports nerd in general, man.
Okay.
Like I think for me it's such like a release in a lot of ways because it's something that I love doing casually, have never done at like a properly elite level.
Hmm.
I played for my college rugby first team. But I mean it was for the college medics first team, so it does count. But at the same time, yeah, so with my college, I'm just gonna bore you with this. King's College London. There's like the main sort of college teams, but also because King's has one of the foremost like medical and dental schools in the world. So like King's College Hospital and Guy's Hospital, St. Thomas's Hospital, like some of the best training facilities for young doctors in the world. People come from all over to study with us. And Guy's Hospital is actually the oldest rugby club in the world. Yeah, founded in 1843,
Wow.
I think. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna get pilloried by anyone from the club who sees this. In the unlikely crossover of
Yes,
medics rugby
that would be a
and
major
vocal
crossover
music
there.
nerds. But yeah, so because the regular KCL team played and trained during the choir practices, myself and another friend from the choir would play for the medics team. And I don't know, it's just a really cool way of meeting people from very different, like on very different life trajectories for me. Like I was in music undergrad with like minors in German and French towards the end. And like I would never have met all of these medical students otherwise because they were on like a different campus. They had their like intense lives, but for like Monday evening training and like Tuesday training, we would have like wait, did we train on a Tuesday? I can't remember. I'm gonna look silly now. Definitely Monday training.
Minor details.
It would be we like I got to like befriend people from just like all different walks of life who had this very singular purpose. And as someone who like has a singular purpose myself in a different field, I don't know, it's just cool meeting passionate people.
I love it. And something great about the a cappella group I was in undergrad was that most of the singers in it were not music majors. They were just guys that could sing really well. I mean, some of them truly phenomenal singers, but they'd be in business or
were you in Trojan
communications.
Men?
So actually I didn't do a cappella at USC. I did a cappella at James Madison in my undergrad.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
USC was all
which
opera.
group are you in at JMU?
Exit 245.
Really?
Yeah.
God, they're sick. They're
Yeah,
really good group, man.
they're really
I never
good.
knew that.
Yeah. I remember when I met Bobby, he was like, "You're an Exit?" I listen to Exit all the time. I was like, "Oh." Yeah, it was real, and they were really when I got like the few years I was in, it was kind of like the golden age of a cappella in a lot of ways. It was like the year after Pitch Perfect came out, like the year after Pentatonics went on the sing off. And so, I mean, my first year in the group, we sold out an 1,100 seat venue for an a cappella concert.
Damn.
A college a cappella
That's cool.
group.
I know it's mad.
Absurd.
That was definitely a golden age. Like,
Yeah.
and I felt like it attracted better and better talent into the field as
Yep.
well. Like, there was a lot of talent, like great talent already in. For example, like the year after the Pitch Perfect Pentatonics, like that was the year that the like Nor'easters, led by Shams Ahmed, had that amazing set and that amazing
Yeah.
championship run.
Mhm.
That was like inspirational for so many generations of like Aka people to come. So like
Yeah.
the talent was always there, but like the spotlight that came on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
My year, I think 100 people auditioned for the group and 4 got in at
Damn.
JMU. Yeah. I mean, absurd. And by the time
Yeah.
I left the group 4 years later, I think it was like 30 or 40 people auditioning, you know, far fewer.
Yeah.
Still
I
competitive,
was
but
gonna
far
say
fewer.
but then you get the people like I think whenever you have a smaller field, like it's the people that really want to be there rather than people who think, oh, this could be cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I always maintained that the only reason I got into All the King's Men for my undergrad was that I was the only bass auditioning and they had a spot in bass.
That does, yeah, basses do have an advantage
That tracks.
in most musical circles. My group Exit has this weird history of always having like super low basses. Like there were always basses lower than me in the group. Like there were two guys in undergrad, like before I got in, that had low B flats all day at like age 21. Stupid. And then
Yeah, that's not fair.
and then I think the bass that came in after me was the same, like had low B flats all day long, and I think he just left the group. So it was like there's a good like decade of like profundo basses in this a cappella group. No one else had basses like that.
There's something about I don't know if it's still the case because although I do judge for like varsity vocals, ICCA quarters and semis in the
Oh,
UK,
I
I'm
did
not
not know
that
that.
versed on. Uh, yeah, we can pivot back to that later
Sure.
if you want, but I'm not as in touch with like the college world as I used to be. But for a while, like I noticed a pattern of like particularly with basses, actually, like groups' basses sounding quite similar year after year because they learned how to bass from listening to the previous iteration of bass.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, back to the Nor'easters, like listening to like David Crozier, who was the bass during that run, and then Jimmy George thereafter, then Elliot One went like all fantastic basses, but they all sounded kind of the same because like this is how we bass.
Yeah.
And they just did it in their own tones. I don't know what it is about bass. I think because it's in like an a cappella group, it's like it provides this rhythmic bedrock as well as like the tonal bass. So the responsibility that the bass has in an a cappella group, like I love it.
Yeah, it's meat and
I mean,
potatoes.
yeah, I mean, in the Wellermen, I was laugh that I sing T2 in the group. Again, I'm sure that resonates with you as the resident high scream guy in the bass.
Yeah.
Gang.
Yeah, I get assigned a lot of the higher parts.
Yeah, it's like let me loose, damn it. But then in like a live context, yeah, I think I like definitely have got pretty comfortably down to like be live and it not be sort of pushed or forced. But
Yeah.
timbrally, Luke and Bobby are just like much like I'm a baritone with like a low extension, and
Sure.
both of them are like bass.
Basses. Yeah.
But yeah, like with Luke, like Luke's often on the lowest bass part because like the formants of his voice and like the color of his voice lend itself to being the bottom voice. Whereas technically, I think Bobby's range is slightly lower, both
Mhm.
in chest and with subs. But
Mhm.
because Bobby's timbre is a little bit higher, he's often on that like next part up.
Which is crazy.
Which is
For
funny how-
Bobby to not be on the bottom part is
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I don't think it's like emasculating him in any way. But
No, I mean
it's just
Bobby's
nice,
a great musician, so he's down to fit where needed, as far as I can tell. I actually want to wind the clock way back to pandemic time when when this primordial ooze of bass singing and creatorship emerged and we all started orbiting each other. Well, because you were at the very forefront of the sea shanty explosion to the point that you guys popped up on the Colbert Show and we were all like shitting ourselves
Yeah.
basically. Can you just walk me through just kind of
Yeah.
how you got into short form content and then how that all exploded?
Um, yeah, so I always describe this, and apologies to anyone who I've like met after a gig recently on tour that I've described this as, but I always call it like uh the happiest accident of my life. Um, Definitely sort of storm in a teacup kind of moment. I don't think anyone could have planned for it kicking off like it did. With like my personal journey at the time the pandemic hit, I was working in audit, specifically like banking audit for a London-based company called Mazar. So I would go into banks, have a look at the accounts and say, yeah, that's good. I see what you did there. Or can you explain why this $45 million sum is in this account and not this account? Not in like you've committed fraud sort of way. I never worked on any engagements where there were even like allegations of fraud, but you just always have to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Um, and it's not just like we're fudging it to make it look good. Um, which was a job I enjoyed for a time because I was gonna say I'm quite good on attention to detail. When I want to be, I'm very good on it. And when I don't, like it's impossible to make it happen. The duality. Um yeah,
Selective
but
focus.
yeah, yeah. Definitely embracing being part of the sort of wider neurodivergent community more than I have done before.
Sure.
But yeah, like bits of that job I loved in terms of yeah, being sort of focused on detail and it's like making sure everything's in the right place. Um, but it wasn't making like it wasn't making my soul like full or happy and like I wasn't getting to make as much music as I used to. And then with the pandemic, I actually got COVID before it was cool. In like mid March 2020.
Hmm.
While working for a client, like someone was complaining about feeling like sore throat and sort of coughing and stuff. It's like, oh, might be that new virus is going around. And everyone made like a big joke about like, oh, let's touch elbows now. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
like about a few days later, um, myself and one of my other first year colleagues, Murad, were both like ill at home. And because he had the money to like pay for private tests at that time, and he was like, yeah, I've got COVID. It's like, well, I don't know because I'm not forking out like half a month's rent to find out if I have this virus or not.
Yeah.
But in all likelihood, I did have it. So that led to like a bit of long COVID brain fog and fatigue. Had to be signed off work for a bit, which was all like stressful because living in London at the time, um, and having like this job partly just to sort of keep afloat and pay rent, and then not being able to do that for a bit, that was uh, pretty horrible. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
But during that time, I thought, well, I can't work, so I might as well make stupid low noises on the internet. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
That checks.
yeah, because yeah, I'd like just started getting into subharmonic in like a big age back in 2015 to like learn, and like I did it for a bit, but then like any sort of fad I like didn't follow it through with it. But then during the pandemic it's like, you know what, I'm actually going to try and nail this time. So watched all of David Lee Larson's videos, did the classic like, this is how you do it, start a fifth up from your bottom range, relax,
Yeah.
see what happens. And then it went from making like one note, sort of holding it for a bit, to, ooh, let's like vary the pitch with it. Um, and then after doing that for a bit, it's like, I don't know anyone on this app called TikTok. Like, I don't have any friends who are on it. Therefore, I'm going to post stuff there because no one will see it except for people who are into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
If anyone is into this kind of thing. And yeah, the notion of someone posting things online to like get feedback whilst banking on no one seeing it, like it took a couple of months for people to clock, you've got this TikTok account, what's that about? But yeah, like, and because that was at the time, it was basically what I had going for me. Like I couldn't do my day job, but I could do bass singing stuff. So like diving into this community online, like seeing, oh, this person's got a really cool channel. I'm gonna do like a duet of their video. Oh, there's this sort of collective of singers from groups that I recognize called Ear Candy, but they never have like that much bass. So I'll add some bass to their videos. Oh, there's this guy singing in a hot tub. He's quite cute, and also he's quite good at singing. And then yeah, with so the the like Bobby is honestly the catalyst. I'm not just saying this because mutual friend, but he is partly the catalyst for the sea shanty thing because we connected, did like a little Luke Combs short cover, and I clocked that we had like mutual friends from like the a cappella community. Like my friends Johnny and Chris had like worked on his college group's EP album thing. But then yeah, I did a lot of duets with a Scottish artist called Natty, who at the time was doing a lot of traditional folk Celtic stuff. And from there, I got to know Nathan Evans a little bit from like duetting some of his stuff and adding some harmonies. And I guess because I'm completely Scottish, but I sound as English as a cup of tea, like work like singing with these Scottish artists on like that sort of traditional song was, I don't know, like getting back in touch with like my heritage.
Sure.
I know lots of people are like, oh, I have heritage. Like you have like a grandfather that went to Scotland once or kind of thing. But both my parents are from Scotland. Like dad's from Edinburgh, mum's from Dunfermline. The joke I was made on tour was they lost their accents going down the M1. And I don't know why people laughed because like I don't think people know what the M1 is in America. It's just like a highway, basically.
Right.
But but yeah, so being completely Scottish but having never lived there has always been a part of me that's like been yearning to get back to it. Long story short, Nathan and I were TikTok friends, and I saw that he posted this sea sound. He was like, "Oh, cool, nice." And then I didn't think anything of it. Like I didn't see Luke or Bobby or Aaron's like duet videos until I got a bunch of tags on Aaron's being like, Johnny, add some harmonies to this. It's like, oh, I mean, maybe let's have a look. Oh, Bobby's doing it. Okay, that's legit. And I like Aaron. Like Aaron's good. Yeah, sure. So like I literally took a couple of minutes adding like a block fifth above the bass line. Just I think I titled it like low baritone or baritone filler that no one will hear but adds gentle thickness. And yeah, because I was like, well, everyone else has labeled their parts, but like, screw it, I'm feeling funny today for a change. And didn't think anything of it, just posted it. And yeah, it did like well for views back when views happened like quite easily on TikTok.
Yeah. Not so much anymore.
But then like a week later, I I think my girlfriend at the time showed me like Johnny, your face is on my Twitter. What have you done? And like some journalist had shared my the one with me as like the main sort of face of it because like knitted jumper, beard,
Yeah.
it fitted. Like shared it to Twitter, and then like that was when it got picked up by like John Oliver and Colbert and like news in the UK and Australia. And yeah, off the back of that, I told you I was good at rambling. Off the back of that, I got a couple of DMs from like label people. Like one was Decca, one was from someone at Universal, being like, "Hey, yeah, can we chat about opportunities?" It's like, don't know you, don't trust you. But I do know a guy who runs like a small to mid like independent label called 10 West. Like Ruben's been one of my oldest friends since I I was 18. We played in a band together. And we've known each other since before either of us could grow facial hair. So, because at the time I didn't know, I thought, yeah, great, it's like a one-off. Let's make a track. Let's make the charity thing or whatever. Just try and capitalize off it. But if I'm going to make anyone else money, I'd rather make one of my friends some money. And also, I can back on him to not screw us because I literally know where he lives.
That's helpful. Yeah.
And vice versa. Like, he'd be able to count on me because yeah, we've been through that much together. So yeah, I corralled like Bobby and Luke and Aaron Sloan, who was on the Wellerman single, but then decided that he didn't like sea shanties very much. But yeah, he's like still killing it doing his videos, and I think still working in finance. But yeah, he gets a little like royalty cut every like 6 months of that. So
Nice.
I think he's not complaining too much.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, so got the guys together because Nathan had his deal with Polydor at that time, a 3-album deal, and thought, oh, we need a lead. I'll message Sam Pope, who was the other sea shanty guy on TikTok. It's like, well, you're not our first choice, but you are the right choice, to borrow from the West Wing. And yeah, that's the tea. That's the history.
That's wild, man. And then it just went so well that, and I guess in communication,
people kept on asking. Yeah, people kept on asking for more of it, and it's like, okay, yeah, we'll do like Drunken Sailor because that's classic. Oh, the Longest Johns, like the sea shanty group, want to do a track with us. Yeah, let's just arrange something we can do together.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe we make this into more of an album or multiple singles type thing. And yeah, you can tell from the output that we did not have a plan from the start. It was let's have some fun, make some music and write it. But I think because we didn't have any big plans at the start, I think there's not been any like real agendas, sort of like there's no sort of we want different things from the group. It's all been let's take it as far as it goes, because we like the fact that we really like singing with each other in person is such a blessing. Like, because we did the whole of the first album completely virtually. Even like myself and Sam, we only live like an hour and a bit apart. We didn't do anything together for that.
Right.
And I don't think Luke and Bobby did either. So when it came to recording album number 2 in person and like actually singing together for the first time, it was like, oh, is that the first time we've ever sung together? It's like, I mean, you must know what it's like from like Bass Gang times, because you guys are all in your different corners of the world, and like meeting up is not. Had you guys literally not met up before the Czech Republic?
No, I hadn't even met Bobby until then.
Jeez.
Yeah. And getting to see Bobby more and more, thankfully. We got together in Nashville, which I'm sure you saw with Brev and Lauren Paley and JD. Lauren and Jada. I mean, incredible trip. I mean, that's what I would love to do more of in the years going forward. And so Bobby's going to come out to Phoenix in October, and Colin McGinnis is probably going to come down again. He just visited me a few weeks ago, and then we're going to go to LA and meet up with a bunch of people there. And it's so cool to finally be working in real time. Like my like one of my favorite things I've done is just sitting in that stairwell with Brev, Lauren, and Bobby, just making up harmonies. And it's such an amazing thing because it sounds amazing. Like it sounds really good. It's all really good singers, good musicians. And then you share it, and then so many people see it and hear it and love it. And like to have both of those things is so special.
Yeah, because it's the kind of thing where when you're experimenting with it, it's just like we're having fun making music rather than, I mean, obviously, I guess the aim is like, yeah, let's like shoot some content, but also like actually enjoy the process of doing that at the same time.
Yeah.
And then have it pop off for like that many views.
It's crazy.
Like Jack Black sees your stuff and it's just like, that's mad.
Yeah, Michael Jackson's son saw it. I just saw it today. They're like a number of people in the professional surfing community that were like commenting, tagging each other on the Halo video. It's just like, okay.
Well, Halo, like I think Halo's got that like ubiquity
Oh
for
yeah.
people of like a certain generation. Like I wasn't ever like an Xbox gamer when Halo was in its like prime,
Yeah.
but I think from speaking to Bobby about it, who is obviously like quite a big gamer guy, like that theme just evokes feelings
Yeah.
in people,
Yep.
like either sort of like playing with your friends or like sort of online gaming parties. Like gaming can really bring people together. Like
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's like easy to sort of be, oh yeah, it's just people like in their bedroom like playing little games, but like some of the very best friends that I have been forged through like online gaming,
Yeah.
for sure.
Absolutely. No, it was so exactly what you're saying. It's fun in the moment and it's wonderful to see it perform so well. I think between Instagram and TikTok, the videos that we shot in Nashville, we still have like one more to put out, one more with Jada, but like those videos combined have like 25, 30 million views in the last like less than 2 months.
Damn, man. Yeah.
Crazy.
Like
Crazy.
I guess like um what does that translate to in terms of like when like people see a video like that's awesome. It means like, yeah, we did something good, which obviously
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the thing I can sometimes struggle with less these days since I started working at like an all girls grammar school near Bournemouth. I don't I feel quite self conscious, but also like I don't have time or energy a lot of the time after my school day to be, yeah, let's like grind and commit to that same like posting schedule. Because
Yeah.
when I have time for music, like I do non TikTok stuff, like so with the Wellermen or with like producing other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but the thing I did struggle with initially was like some things would not pop off that were like arguably better in a lot of ways than the stuff that did. So the numbers that like translating the numbers into what they are is always a bit of a thing. But now that this many people have seen your video, like has that led to people like viewing more of your other stuff, or like has there been any sort of tangible increase in activity other than, oh damn, this is a lot of views?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like a lot of followers, but I think cross-platform pollination doesn't happen much these days. Usually, if they're stuck in the scrolling hamster wheel, they're going to be on that app forever, and they'll
Mm,
probably forget about that video that they were obsessed with 5 minutes ago, right? So
mm,
I haven't seen like my YouTube blow up or my Patreon blow up because of the short form content. That YouTube's gonna gain traction from YouTube, Patreon's gonna gain traction from YouTube, Instagram's gonna gain traction from Instagram.
mm.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty siloed, but still
Did
cool.
you post the
Still
same
cool.
video on like Reels, TikTok, and Shorts, and just see
We
where? Yeah.
at least one of us at least one of us did. So on TikTok, Lauren would post and Jada would post and their videos would do really well. No one gives a shit about my TikTok. And because I never really put work into it and I was literally dormant on it for probably 18 months. And so I'll post the same video Lauren does and 300 people see it, but 3 million
Mm,
people see it on her account. Um, but also like Bobby and Brev would both post the videos as well, and they wouldn't perform that well on their accounts either. So TikTok
mm,
to me is a big mystery. Reels on some level seem a little bit more reliable. YouTube Shorts as well, a
mm,
little bit more reliable. You still can't predict what's gonna go nuclear, um, but it's a little more reliable than TikTok, at least in my experience.
mm.
But yeah,
Yeah. With anything that, yeah, with anything like TikTok, you kind of have to like it was best for me in terms of numbers when I was committing regularly to it and putting out like a couple of pieces a week of good, high
yes,
quality stuff. Um, and then if you don't do that for a while and like you come back again, there's no guarantee that it'll remember, oh, this person did stuff. So like like, I mean, Luke has like 4.2 million on
Yeah,
TikTok, I think.
yeah,
And even like Luke's numbers are like down a bit because he's just been less active with it, and the app's not necessarily been, oh, it's Luke the voice Taylor.
yeah.
But then he'll post the same thing on Reels, and it'll be like, this is great. We're
Yep.
gonna push this out to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's the same video.
I mean,
You know.
I mean, I think one of the reasons that Lauren Paley is the greatest of all of us in this sphere is because she's obviously immensely talented. She understands how to be a creator, and she puts out stuff all the time on Instagram and TikTok. She is like just constantly putting out content, and good content that people
Yeah.
like watching. And she's
Oh
been
yeah, it's
she's
like definitely all killer, no filler. Yeah,
yeah, and she's been
like
doing that for consistently for years. And so she's got over 10 million on TikTok, and if she's not at a million on
mm,
Instagram yet, she's probably very close.
mm.
And deserves every one of
Having
them.
a husband, having a husband that like embraces like Disney cameo roles as
It's
well is
so great.
definitely
It's so
yeah.
great. I want to touch one more subject because believe it or not, we've already been chatting for like almost 50 minutes.
Oh
Um,
God, yeah. I definitely gave you like a couple of big rambles.
it's all good. So
If like we need to add back on more time at another time, we can do that.
oh yeah,
So
I'm
let me know.
sure you'll be a repeat guest almost
Mhm.
certainly. I want to just talk to you a little bit about your experience with mixing, audio engineering,
Mm.
how you got into that, and how you think about those projects different than your own musical projects. Because being a producer, it's more about what the client wants, essentially. Like I remember working with these wonderful acapella producers in undergrad, and they would take every suggestion from me and every other dumbass 20-year-old in the acapella community and just do it. Like take what we got and then make it sound good. So how do you kind of, balance your creative will with the will of, perhaps someone you're producing a track for?
Yeah, that's always a fun one to get the head around. I think with mixing other people's music, um, I start off by putting myself in their shoes. Like they might have like a Word document pages and pages long, full of very well intentioned, um, but not strictly necessary changes because they've had this arrangement in their head for months. And now they finally get to hear it on a recording, and it has to be the way that they hear it in their
Yeah.
head. I have definitely been that MD of a college group before. I think most people who mix a cappella have been that person
Hmm.
to some degree, which is in some ways how we get into it. Like oh, how can I make that happen for myself? How can I make that happen for other people? Um, I think when I was more active with the college scene, um, rewinding to the start of your question, how did I get involved with it?
Hmm.
Um, as I said earlier, I did an internship with the vocal company. So learning about production from all of the great engineers they had at the time, like Angela Ugolini, uh, Ted Drabinski, Dave Longo, Nick Lyons, Jill Clark, like, and then I was joined to the company by like Mel Danicky, and also Johnny Del Toro was the intern before me, who
Mm.
for the Wellermen's last album, everything I didn't mix, Johnny mixed. Oh, except for that track called Hoist the Colors that did quite well, I think. So that's Bobby's baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then like John Smith, most recently the Swingle Singers, like amazing arranger, engineer, like so many. Like for a while, the vocal company was like I called it the Real Madrid of a cappella. Like there were all these amazing like Galactico level talents just working for the same company with the same goal.
Mm.
And yeah, spending a summer like living in this residential studio, uh, like engineering for like amazing singers who were just like passing through, like sitting in on production courses that like people they used to have seminars called Next Level where like top arrangers or top producers. So for producers, um, Ed Boyer came in and did one.
Man.
Uh, Christopher Harrison and Rachel Bearer from like Aurora, um, and arranging wise, Tom Anderson, Rob Dietz, Ben Bram, and Shams. Uh, like amazing, like top of the game people would come in and like teach college age students how to do these things a bit more like them. And I was basically the like recording Gumby for a lot of those. So I would press like command space for like, yeah, like a session that Tom Anderson sort of had masterminded. And it was like getting to see how all of these minds operated up close. It was like, yeah, like one day I would love someone to feel about my work the way that I feel about this right now.
Yeah.
Which then full circling it with the Wellerman album, like I always think that when compliments are like A, unsolicited, and B, rarely given, they mean that much more. And getting a message from like one of those people who I had shadowed on those courses being like, this album is brilliant. What did you do on it? It was like most of it.
Yeah.
And everything I didn't do was Jonny or Bob.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, after that, I then went back to the UK, was like the vocal company's guy in the UK for a couple of years. And then took it more freelance. At the time, I wasn't great with deadlines, and I think as I'd not been diagnosed with the ADHD back then, so it was like, why am I so bad at deadlines? Why can't I do this unless it's like literally creeping up on me?
Yeah.
And then now I know, but it was frustrating for the team to have to work with me at that time, and like I feel really bad about it. I've like apologized to most of them since, but yeah. And then around the time that the vocal company was sort of disbanding, I was striking out freelance and doing my own thing and like sort of finding new groups to like either engineer for or produce. And then yeah, with like what haven't I covered? Lots. The big difference with like producing your own stuff versus producing other people's stuff. I actually often don't love mixing stuff that I've arranged, because I know that from the arranger's point of view, I have this vision in my head, and I know that it can't 100% be the right one, because I've dealt with people's 100% right vision. It's like, no, you're wrong. Politely, you're wrong.
Respectfully.
So yeah, it's like, I mean, giving you an example of when I mixed like the Game of Thrones track for you, for example, like like I appreciate very strongly when someone knows enough about production to like know what is a reasonable thing to suggest, and also trusts the person doing it enough to be, this isn't a deal breaker, so if you don't agree, then don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Similarly, like I when I give feedback for like the overzealous MD, it's like, I'm going to make this change. I don't necessarily agree with it. If you like it, we can keep it, and if you don't, then let's go back to this version. It's like giving them sort of an A/B option, like when you're at the opticians and it's like, is it lens A or is it lens B?
Yeah.
Kind of doing a little like compare and contrast. But you have to leave your ego at the door as a musician all the time. Like whether you're a performer, a producer, like a writer, a manager, like it's not always about you. And I think as a producer, you have to let the music speak rather than how you think the music should speak. And there's been plenty of times I've been wrong. Like I've not agreed with a suggestion, but I've done it anyway. And it's like, oh, you know what? You know what? That's actually right. Like I can hang with that. So yeah, it's being humble enough to know when you're wrong and convicted enough to know when you're right.
Yeah.
I guess.
Fantastic, man. Love it. TLDR, that last sentence. I think you nailed it there. All right, we got some good questions from the Patreon community. We'll hit you with those and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah,
Sound good?
let's do it, man.
All right.
Yeah.
This is from Amanda Knott. I'm sad I missed the DC show of the Wellermen. I'm sure it was a great show. Do you anticipate that you all will continue to tour in the future, and is it limited to summer tours due to Luke's college courses?
So Luke is about to be a college graduate. I think he's completed the bulk of his credits. At the moment, there's been a couple of constraints that have limited myself and Sam from being able to tour. I was very grateful to my school job for giving me time off for this tour, which they really didn't have to do. So thank you guys. And with Sam, because he's been in this West End show and his main source of income is being a musical theatre performer. So there are constraints with that, but again, without necessarily promising or giving too much away, there are talks underway for future visits, not just in the summertime. There's a couple of festivals in the early to mid part of 2025 that we would love to be singing at.
Fantastic. Okay, next one. This is from Ginny Thompson. This is actually my mom. She always asks a question. Interesting question. What is your favorite synth sound to use, and what is your favorite music genre to arrange? I don't know much of what you've done. I'm not super familiar with what you've done outside of the kind of bass Wellerman acapella community.
I do not know as much about synths as I would like to. Like I love experimenting with sounds on my keyboard. Like I have Arturia's like Analog Lab 5, which came with that I use for like synth stuff when I'm arranging. I've not really branched out into making like sort of pop music for myself beyond like I'm demoing this because I can't be bothered to sing it and it sounds better with a synth anyway. I was messing with a fun patch the other day that's basically they managed to model the Jump synth patch from Van Halen.
Van Halen, yeah.
And it's like just playing that riff on the keyboard, you just feel like such a rock star until you take your headphones off and just in your bedroom. But yeah, since like with the whole like attack, sustain, delay, and like decay and release, like there's so many parameters that I think it's like one of those series that you want to watch, but if you do, you're going to go down the rabbit hole. Like I've not watched Grays because I would have to watch all like 20 seasons.
Sure.
For me, I think if I started on synths, I might never leave. But maybe I'll get there. And in terms of the favorite song that I've arranged for the Wellermen, I would say, Wild Mountain Time, probably. Beautiful song. Whether you think it's Irish or Scottish, it doesn't matter. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And the guys sing that so well. We've got a version of that with just vocals and a version of that with me on guitar and vocals and the other guys doing like backing. And both of them work really, really well.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Lots of different colors.
All right, we have a couple questions from Nora, who is a self-admitted being a smartass in one of these questions. You kind of touched on this earlier, actually. She said, "Does working with Bobby and Luke lead people to mistake you for a tenor?"
If I'm distracted, it's because I'm getting my laptop charger. I should have plugged that in at the start of the call.
All good.
But I got distracted by my cat, I think. So people usually assume that Bobby and I are the bassists because we're the ones that have beards. Luke has now started growing a little bit of facial hair. But yeah, people always assumed that he was like the tenor until he speaks.
That's hilarious.
Beautiful Virginia, Pennsylvania drawl.
Yes.
But yeah, I think for me it's been a bit of a challenge gigging the show night after night because with the way a lot of the parts sit, it's often like a lot of it's around this like B flat C area, which is
that gets tiring really fast.
Break central. So finding bits in the set where I had to like work out getaways or get outs if I wasn't feeling it that night. Or like sometimes taking it up higher so it would be like in a more powerful bit of the head voice rather than like a sort of floaty whatever. But it's like definitely helped me grow as a performer, like being more flexible in that regard. Like I've not really experimented with my mix range all that much at all. So now I'm like trying to develop that, trying to like it's unlocking different bits of me as a singer. So
awesome.
Yeah, I wish I was on the bass a lot of the time, but I'm definitely getting better.
Right on.
Doing this.
All right, one more from Nora. Um, so she says, I don't know how to phrase this one well. I think she phrases it pretty well, actually. All the remixes and genre-bending collabs, like with Excision and Sullivan King, for example. By the way, I have been in the EDM scene for like 12 years, and it's
Yeah,
just,
mate, I
and
know. Like, I was gonna ask you, what do you think about all of that? Because like the first I heard about it was when they played it at like Ultra, and as
yeah,
someone who I don't know if you've been, you seem like someone that might have been to
I
Ultra
have been to
at some
Ultra.
point,
I
or
have, yeah.
yeah, like worlds colliding. Damn.
Yeah, I've probably seen Excision 6 or 7 times.
Wow.
And he's the biggest name probably in dubstep and like the really heavy electronic stuff. I saw him twice at Lost Lands last fall. I saw Sullivan King perform with Excision last fall. So totally nuts that is a
Yeah.
thing that's happened. And
Oh man.
anyway, the rest of the question is,
Mm.
do you think that complicates people's expectations of the live shows if they've heard some of these
Oh,
remixes and then come see you guys perform?
absolutely not. I mean, if they come expecting that, then uh I don't know. Like, I'm not averse to giving people what they want. I think we just have to have a DJ that tours with us and remixes us live and can also sing bass stuff.
Yeah.
Brackets, like, we'll give you a
Hmm.
call. But yeah, I think it's yeah, like it's kind of surreal because it's music that I do not personally listen to, but I respect so much. Like the technical skill
Oh,
needed to make that music and to get that many people moving and feeling it. Like it's insane. And like I'm not surprised that like Exit and Sullivan King are like at the top of the game because yeah, yeah, like as someone who's like very new into that sphere, like I was mind blown by what they managed to do with it.
dude,
So yeah,
I think dubstep artists, the top ones, are some of the most creative, best, technically proficient producers in the world. The amount of sound they can put together and have it still be totally clean and have nothing interfering with the next thing blows my mind.
yeah,
Absolutely blows my
the
mind.
like I was gonna say separation. Like, I think when dubstep had its first big wave back in like the sort of Skrillex '09 sort of
Yeah.
10 era, like everyone's like, oh, it's just like someone doing like a thing that goes wub 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 and it's just like
Yeah.
a lot of big noise. But like how, yeah, the like level of creativity involved and like the influences they draw on to get there. Like, I know I loved the interview that you had with Eric Whittaker, basically.
Oh yeah.
Like I had no idea
Yeah.
he was. I had no idea he was so into that
Yeah.
kind of thing, but
Yeah.
it like makes
Crazy.
sense.
Crazy. All right, one more. This is from Amy, who actually came to your Ann Arbor show. She says, I was at the Ann Arbor show, and she asked, what is the most surprising thing you learned about America while touring?
Great question. Firstly, Amy, thank you so much for coming to that show. I know every time like people play, they say this was our favorite show of the tour. I think we have like a couple of contenders for favorite show of the tour. Um, but in terms of the one that we felt happiest with our performance, like it was definitely the Ann Arbor show. Like we'd been so smooth, like like building up. Yeah, we're comfortable with it, and we just had so much fun. And I hope some of that fun came across, and you guys enjoyed it as much as we did because we had an absolute blast. Um, turn signals. I've only now learned how turn signals work. Um, And even then, I'm not convinced I know how turn signals work. It's basically if no one's telling you you can't turn, you can turn. Whereas in the UK, we're very much like only turn, only turn if this very specific thing is lit. Otherwise, you cannot repeat, cannot turn.
Oh, interesting.
Uh, which in terms of road safety just seems to work. But um, also, I learned that wah wah is the truth and we need them in the UK. Um, and also that cowboy boots are possibly the comfiest pair of footwear that anyone can own.
They really are.
Uh,
If you find the right
all the first,
ones, if you find the right ones, they are amazing.
I broke a pair of boots that I'd had since the very first Wellermen performance, which was at the Brits 2019. not with Bobby and Luke because the Brits couldn't afford to fly them over.
Yeah.
So we got Rob Lindsay and Todd Harris from Mild College group All the King's Men to sing instead. They're like our regular Europe depths. But yeah, I had those boots since the Brits, so they've been my Brit boots. And then at the end of the set on Leaving Liverpool, when it gets the very last, like sort of dun, 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 bam, I always do like a little like jump and stomp, and the heel went.
Oh
just
no!
went on stage.
Oh no!
Yeah. So I was like, Luke, you might have to show me where to buy a pair of
Buy a pair of boots.
Buy a pair of boots.
We're gonna buy a pair of boots.
Oh man. So the amount of times that Danny just said that in like weird environments, like we were at
yes,
like a Boston sports bar watching like game 2, I think, of the finals, and the server was just being a little bit aggressive and Bostonian, and like to the point with like, do you want a tip? And Brad was just like, "Bird, my bad bear boot." And he just looked completely nonplussed. I love it. But yeah, so we had a little group stop off at Boot Barn on the way up to New York, where
I love it. I love it.
Bobby and I bought boots. The others bought like sort of like shirt, like pearl snap shirts.
Yeah.
And those boots, I'm in love.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, Brev
Amazing.
gave zero fucks multiple times in Nashville. Like, I remember we were watching this performance of a fellow creator we hadn't met yet, and someone comes up and they were asking Brev where the bathroom was. They're asking where the bathroom is, and this morning he's like, "Yeah, you want to buy a pair, but you can go back there buy a pair of boot." And they're like, it's so loud you can't tell what's happening, but they interpreted something that like he was actually giving them directions. It was absolutely incredible. We have great videos of that, like we were doing like little skits with that in like the boot stores, and we have yet to post them, but I'm really interested to see if people find them as funny as we do.
I reckon I'll find them really funny in terms of like views. I don't know, but then again, I didn't think people would find videos of like Luke chugging pints of milk funny.
I know.
And
you never know.
I think that's like
the moral.
That's maybe like on like reels. I think that's like the Wellermen's most engaged with reel is Luke just straight chugging 3 pints of milk.
Incredible. Jonny, thanks for coming on, man. Any final words to the fans, to the audience? Where should people find you?
You can find me on all good social media outlets and some less good ones at Jonny Stewart Bass. Jonny, no H, Stewart, Stewart. And I rambled a lot, so we'll just have to cover some other bases another time. Or I need to get the groundwork going, but I'm looking into setting up a podcast/video series in the fall sometime. So would love to have you on talking about all things
fantastic,
music, mental health, and masculinity.
Fantastic.
Or just like human related. I just liked the alliteration of the 3 M's, but it's definitely not a man-only zone.
I would love to. I'd be honored.
But yeah.
And the internet, it's been a little blurry the last like 10 minutes, but it did way better than I expected. Thank goodness. So I think we have an episode.
Your sound was your sound was always consistent, and if mine wasn't, then I can send you the backup I've been recording.
Yeah, probably do that anyway. Anyway, man.
Yeah.
Pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you soon. I'll keep you posted on release dates and all that good stuff.
Oh, beautiful.
Cheers.
All right, take it easy.
I hope you guys enjoyed that full conversation with Jonny Stewart. If you did, I'm sure you'll enjoy this conversation with another bassy member of the Wellermen, Luke Taylor, the man. Go on, click it. I know you want to.